Hi everyone, my name is Brenda Lisbeth Perez Vasquez and I will be presenting what are the implications of a text-based approach to writing. But before that, let us see what we have learned. Writing should be appropriate to its audience readers. This will affect the range of vocabulary and the complexity of the sentence. As we will see later on, but more specifically, you have to have an idea of who you are going to write to as much as you can. Because, for example, if you're going to read to a 10-year-old child, you're going to read a tale like Red Riding Hood, not 100 Years of Solitude. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind. Let's move on to rhetorical functions. The smaller units, often called rhetorical functions, are used to express functions such as explaining, defining, and comparing, and combine to form rhetorical patterns. We have to build awareness in student writings that the organization of a piece of writing should be appropriate to its purpose. For example, in the movie Megamind, the first scene starts with the phrase, "Here is my day so far." With this word selection, a pattern, you already know that this scene is a forced forward and it will lead you to another true start later on. So you have to tell your students that depending on the language they have chosen and the way they are going to organize those words will affect the whole plot. Types of writing. There are 6 types of writing. There are personal, public, creative, social, study, and institutional. Examples of personal are diaries, journals, shopping lists, reminders of oneself, packing lists, addresses, and recipes. Public are form filling, letters of inquiry, complaint, and request. Creative are poems, stories, rhymes, drama, songs, and autobiography. Social are letters, invitations, notes of condolence, thanks, and congratulations, telephone messages, such as instructions to family and friends. In study, making a card index, summaries, side notes, reports of experiments, works, visits, biographies, essays, and obviously, and last, institutional. These are much agenda, minutes, memoranda. But before writing, you have to craft it. Crafting a text means putting together pieces of the language chosen. As I said, depending on the language you have chosen, is what you are going to write. For example, in Spanish, it depends where you put the adjective. For if you put it before or after, not only will affect the noun, but the whole sentence meaning. It's not the same in Spanish, mi vieja amiga, that my amiga vieja. In one, you are saying that you have a friend that is old, and the other one says that you have a friend for so long. So, but how are you going to craft a text? Well, for that you have to know what skills the good writings demonstrate. First is authoring. Having something to say gives a sense of purpose. Being aware of the reader gives a sense of audience. Developing the idea, a sense of direction. In the crafting, it's organizing the context clearly and in a logical manner. Manipulating the script, using conventions, for example, the spelling and layout, getting the grammar right, developing sentence structure, linking ideas in a variety of ways, and having a range of vocabulary. This will affect how you're going to write your writing, and also depends on who you're writing it to. But how does it affect? Well, we see that in the next slide. With the authoring, is having something to say will affect the content and the length. Being aware of the reader will affect the appropriateness. Developing the idea will affect the organization. When you are going to write something, you have to keep three things in mind. Who are you going to write to? That's the audience. What are you going to write to? That's the purpose. And how are you going to do it? That's the organization. It's not the same writing a fairy tale than writing a message for your college homework. Now, when it comes to crafting, organizing the content clearly and in a logical manner will affect the organization. Manipulating the script talks about handwriting. Using the conventions, for example, the spelling and layout, will affect the accuracy. Getting the grammar right will affect also the accuracy and the complexity, as same as developing the sentence structure. Linking ideas in a variety of ways will affect the complexity and the range. Range. Having a range of vocabulary will affect the range. So again, organizing will always have something to do with organization. Back to Megamind, you could start when he could have started when he was a baby, but he decided to start from the end. So that gives us an idea that there's going to be a plot twist where he will end up failing a task. Manipulating the strict in handwriting, when you're writing your notes, you have to make your letter legible so you can understand your ideas for later. And accuracy, remember, it's when you use the correct grammar and syntax to the purposes you're going to use. Now, as a teacher, discussion topics and projects. Think of your student needs for writing in English. Make a list of real audiences you can find for students when you set writing tasks. Remember, when you write something, you have to make sure you know who are you writing it to. Choose a course book with a writing component in it. Make sure it fulfills your students' needs. Think of ways you could encourage your own students to practice their writing as much as possible outside class. Give your students the grading criteria based on the writing skills seen before. You can tell them to write something, but if they don't know what they're going to write, how they're going to write it, and to whom, they will be lost completely and they will hate the writing skill. And ways of practicing, you can always tell them to write journals, although many students don't like it. So every time you think of a writing task, think of your students' needs. In conclusion, we saw the elements of both writing and product approaches to writing. A teacher must use both approaches in order to develop those aspects of writing most needed by students. The significance of each principle would depend on the specific needs of students' writers. As said, your students must always go first. If they don't like what they're writing, it's mainly because they don't know what they're doing it for. So, keep always your students' needs in mind. Thank you very much for seeing my video. I know it's not the quality you expected, but it's quarantine. So thank you very much again, and don't forget to see my other classmates' videos. They're really amazing and worth seeing. Thank you very much. We'll see you later in class. Have a good day.